Okay, we're live here right now outside Courthouse East at the corner of Calvert Street and Lexington. Just moments ago, a line of sheriff's deputies walked north here trying to secure the scene. Just a few moments before that, we saw them take into custody a young man named Kwame Rose, who we've heard throughout this protest period. He's been an activist throughout this whole time. This all coming shortly after the mistrial declared in the trial of Officer William Porter, the jury telling Judge Barry Williams that they could not come to a unanimous decision. Out here at Courthouse East now, I'm joined by Warren Brown, a prominent local defense attorney. Mr. Brown, just real briefly, your reaction to them declaring mistrial, the jury calling it a hung jury.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. When I looked at the composition of the jury and knowing a little bit about the case, I knew that that was a distinct possibility. And, it'll be interesting when the numbers come out to know what the breakdown was. Was it 11-1? Was it 6-6, 8-4? But I think what you're going to find, fortunately or unfortunately, is that it's going to probably break down along racial lines. And the important thing to understand is it's not going to get any better for the state. They're going to face the same dilemma at each stop along the way in the other 5 cases that they have. The jurors are pretty much going to represent the feeling of the city. Majority black believe that these officers are guilty. Majority white believe that they're not guilty. And so I think the state's going to have a difficult time. Now, they have to decide whether they're going to retry Porter, whether they're going to give Porter immunity and use him against the next officer, I think Goodson, who was the driver of the van, or whether they're going to prosecute Porter again and just push everybody back.
That's the thing. Right now, the next trial is already scheduled. Would it just be a matter of administratively changing that, if that's what they want to do? That could be done.
It could be done. I mean, you could any number of manners of approach here. They could push all of them back and just use Goodson's trial date for Porter, or put Porter at the back, or just put Porter onto the side entirely and pick up with Goodson. What I think will probably happen is that they will assess the case. They gave it their best shot. I don't think they can really expect a conviction in light of the evidence, and I think that they'll end up offering Porter a immunity and then use him to testify against Goodson and I think Sergeant White, because they need Porter to reveal to the jury that I did tell these other officers that Freddie Gray asked for medical care.
In your experience, what's more common? A close to 6-6 split, or more like a 10-2 or an 11-1?
Oh, listen, there's no model for this. It could be 11-1, but I think it's going to be more like 8-6. Keep in mind that the first note that the jury sent out indicating they were deadlocked said they were tremendously deadlocked, that it wasn't going to change, and that's something that you rarely hear. They usually say we can't come to an agreement, but when they say hopelessly, with their exact words, they were hopelessly deadlocked the very first conversation with the court. I knew it wasn't going to get any better than that.
It also sounded like they were deadlocked on all 4 of the charges. In other words, they couldn't all agree just to dismiss one of them. They sound like they were deadlocked on all 4.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because oftentimes when you have multiple counts, in order to get around the hung jury, they will compromise, find him not guilty of 2, guilty of 2.
Not this time.
Not this time, because his same state of mind needed to be proven, which is a callous disregard, a reckless disregard for human life. And the state just didn't prove that. They had to prove that on each one of the counts. And so therefore, any juror who understood the instructions, applied it to the law, there's no way that they, in good conscience and living by the oath that they took, find him guilty just to compromise the case.
Let me just challenge you briefly on what you mentioned about you thinking it's going to come down to a racial makeup of the jury. In this particular case, the defendant is an African-American police officer. Would that make any difference typically, or do you think it would have in this case?
Not in this case. He's a police officer, and I think that's all some people see, that he was a police officer, and so it really wouldn't matter. In fact, the ones facing the most serious charges are the black police officers, between Porter, Goodson, and Alicia White. So no, I don't think it made, he didn't endear himself. He didn't have any sympathies with those black jurors necessarily, simply because he was African American.
Is this a victory for the defense, or is this a?
Anytime you don't hear guilty, it's a victory. And it really does cause a problem for the prosecution. they have bought into this, just as General Powell mentioned before we went into Iraq, that if we go, we own it. Well, when she charged these guys, she owns them, because you have the great potential that each one of these cases is going to resolve itself in this very same fashion, and that is a hung jury. And so, you know, what do you do with it? I mean, but she's stuck with it. She's going to have to decide whether or not to, you know, fish or
if you're Marilyn Mosby, what do you do?
Well, you know, I would just go ahead and say I gave him my best shot against Porter, give him immunity, and then put him on the witness stand with regard to the forthcoming defendants, especially Goodson and Alicia White, because they're the ones he's supposed to, and I think the lieutenant, they're the ones he's supposedly told, but they're the ones who are charged with the death. So it's important that they have known that Freddie Gray was asking for medical attention, and the only person that can give them that evidence is Officer Porter. So they probably need to just, you know, swallow this and use Porter by giving him immunity.
And how soon would you find out what happens next?
Well, you know, they probably in 24 hours you'll know some things. For example, in the next. Yeah, and the split, you're going to know that. They know that right now. They know what the split was. And so I don't know if they're still under a gag order, but if you talk to them, you can ask them, because they know what the split is now. And that's something that the prosecution will assess in determining whether or not to, you know, prosecute him again.
And remember, this was the strongest case.
That was local defense attorney Warren Brown, one of the more prominent attorneys in town, talking about his analysis of the case. What's been interesting about this case is that the gag order has been in effect. So throughout it, you haven't heard from either the defense team or the prosecutors, Marilyn Mosby, or the other prosecutors who are actually in court doing this case. So what we've relied on is analysis from attorneys, local attorneys in town who have sat through the proceedings, watching this whole thing going on, Warren Brown being one of those. And what you heard him say is that he is not surprised that it was a mistrial. In fact, he feels that when the jury is polled and when you find out what the split was, Warren Brown believes that you're going to see that it was a split with the African-American members of the jury voting to convict and the white members of the jury voting to call Officer Porter not guilty in this case. Of course, we don't know that. That's merely his opinion at this time.